Hey guys, Dark Humility here. You can always catch me at www.twitch.tv/darkhumility. Streaming Diablo 2 variety content, including PD2, LOD, and D2R when it comes out, 6 to 7 days a week. Today, we have possibly one of the most impressive magic finders in the pit, the Fireball Nova Sorceress. We're going to be doing this guide today on my single player LOD pluggy solo self-found. All the gear has been self-found, so it might not be a perfect representation necessarily of the exact gear, but I'll hopefully try to explain what types of options you can use and things of that nature. Be going over her stats, skills, and gear, and then demoing her in her best area, mostly the pit, but also showing off some other versions of the character as well. There's not a ton of different versions of this character other than the main version, which is meant for pit farming. But we can, of course, show off some of those versions and show how they're a little bit different as well. And talk about the gear and show the gear that you'd have to change out. So we'll make sure to get all of that going as well. Overall, she's a very, very strong build. I wouldn't quite say she's S tier though, because her versatility isn't quite as high as some builds. But in the pit, she is a monster. Pit primarily uses 3-piece towels, ist runes everywhere, and magic find to boost her magic find as close as possible to 700% or around there, or at least over 600. And her whole goals in Players 1 or in solo play is to target those elites and to snipe them and kill them as quickly as possible with tons of MF. The only monster that is fire immune in the pit are the Devilkins, and those monsters can be killed by the Nova, even though the Nova doesn't do a ton of damage, which makes this build very strong. Because for the most part, the Fireball is very strong despite having no skillers, and it kills most other monsters in one shot. And then the Nova will kill in a couple hits as well, normally. So, for the fire immunes. So, between these two abilities, the pit gets wasted. There are no elites left standing, and it's no problem in general. I really enjoy this build. It's a lot of fun to use two different skills instead of just like one skill the whole time, and decimates the pit very well. Some people from my stream might remember her performance during Battle of the Pit, so this character's not a joke. Very efficient pit farmer. And the pit, of course, is a max level area. It's one of the best areas in the game to farm, period. So she's very solid in that regard. She's going to hit up that insanely strong farming area and is going to find all of the goodies. Alright, so let's start with her stats though. So we got 10,000 fireball damage. I'd say somewhere between 9,000 and 10,000 is kind of the range you're usually looking for, but it's not exact. Even as low as 8,000 is fine, especially for like hardcore, and as high as like 11,000 is also fine. In general, though, you don't need a billion damage because all you're trying to do is pop them in Players 1, and you're trying to get those elite loot tables. The elites have those really strong loot tables. They have the best chances of dropping those ultra rare items. So popping them in one shot or as quickly as possible is typically the goal. If you're in player 7, that's a different variation of the build. We'll kind of go over it a little bit, but we're not going to be going over those other variants as much because they're not super meta. They're also not like insanely important. Like I would say the damage one is just kind of fun, but you only get like 300 magic fine with it. It's pretty strong, but it doesn't really have too much of a purpose, I'd say. Like this build right here, this one I'm about to show you guys, the standard version of this is a well-oiled machine. Like the other versions are, like the hardcore one's good for hardcore. It's not as optimal as the softcore one because you're lacking damage somewhat, and some magic fund, but it's still strong. There's a damage version though. That one's kind of just a fun build, but it's not like insanely important. But yeah, we'll go over those in a moment. Anyway, so we have about 10,000 fireball damage when we have our bow up. We put in enough strength to wear our gear, so our spirit That's it. We don't need any points into dexterity. And vitality, we just put the rest of the points in there. Energy, we just get enough of that from gear, so we're good. And then res, just make sure you have enough to not die insanely fast. But since we're doing players 1, it's not going to be that bad usually. It is nice to have decent res still, though, because those archers can hit really hard, especially if they have elemental damage. Alright. Magic Find. That is the most important part of this build, kind of like with the Berserk Barb guide, if you guys watched that one, or if you heard about it. Berserk Barb is all about that Magic Find in Players 1. This character is also about Magic Find in Players 1. So we have an insanely high amount of Magic Find. That's a good thing. That is going to make it possible for us to have our highest odds of getting those awesome uniques and sets from those elite monsters. Alright, 105 FCR is also key. Both Nova, Fireball, and Teleport. All of our skills use 105. All use that breakpoint. So that's a very important breakpoint to hit, that 105 FCR. I'd recommend hitting it even on hardcore. Yeah, that's definitely what you should be shooting for on this build pretty much always. 60 FHR, it's a decent breakpoint. It's pretty strong. It's hard to hit that without sacrificing more Magic Find on this build, so I wouldn't prioritize beyond 60. 60 is a good one. And then none of the other stats really matter all that much. Overall, it's a pretty solid build in that regard. Alright, skills. This is where we got to pay a bit closer of attention. So stats are pretty straightforward on sorceresses in general, especially this one. But this one, you still put the 1 point into frozen armor like always, and this is where the split attention comes. So people always ask me, like, how many points do you put into the fireball synergies versus the Nova synergies and everything like that? It's a fine balance. I'm not going to lie. There's definitely some fine-tuning you can do to try to optimize it. But in general, you're going to want to put one in teleport, of course. You're going to want to max Nova. So Nova is going to give you... Maxing Nova is going to give you more damage than maxing Lightning Mastery for Nova itself. But when it comes to Lightning Mastery, we actually only want to put like somewhere between like 5 and 6, maybe 5 to 10 points into here. You can even go with 1 Lightning Mastery if you want, but then your Nova is kind of weak. You don't really need to focus too much Lightning Mastery. It's more important that your Fireball is strong because the Devilkins have low HP and they're the only fire immunes. So, but except for like elites that spawn fire immune. Your Mercenary can usually deal with them as well. So this is not really your primary skill in some sense, but it is a skill that you use a lot in the pit to take out the Devilkins. So having somewhere between like 5 to 10 Lightning Mastery and max Nova is what I prefer. Like I said, you could even have as low as like 1 point to there if you want. And then we have 1 point Warmth, and this is pretty much it. So you just put max out Fireball, max out Meteor, and then depending on your character level, you want to make sure there's exactly a 7 to 8 point spread between your Firebolt and your Fire Mastery. So you'll notice that my Fire Mastery is level 25 in this case, and the Firebolt is 33. Firebolt's actually maxed out now. But if you weren't maxed out, in order to maximize Fireball's damage without having both of these maxed out, the way to do it is to make sure you have 7 to 8 more points into Firebolt than you have into Fire Mastery. If you have exactly that, it's optimal. Neon! Hey, what's up, man? Hey, thank you guys for all the Xana attacks. Hope you guys had awesome stream. Hope you guys had a great time indeed. What's up, Neon Velocity? Hello, guys. Hope you had a great stream. We're doing a guide for the Fireball Novasaur, so we're going over the skills currently. We just finished going over the skills, actually, because that's pretty much it. But yeah, for some reason, if you like put more points into Fire Mastery than Firebolt, your Fireball is going to be significantly weaker. The same is the case, by the way, if you put the same amount. Of course, if everything's maxed, it doesn't matter, but You can't really even max him even at level 99. It's so long as you want to put some points into light mastery. So yeah, it's important you're putting 7 to 8 more points in Firebolt and Fire Mastery. It's a strange formula, but it's very important to know
I
for
can
this build.
already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken cave.
Fireball Nova does equal pro. I agree, 100%. Um, yeah, so it's a pro pit build. It's specifically built for the pit, but you can use it elsewhere. Of course, we'll show that a little bit. We'll also show some other varieties of it, which in other builds, like some of the variations are a bit more important and a bit more prominent. For this build, I wouldn't say so necessarily, but we'll still go over them a bit. Hey, Build, what's up, Trix? Oh, Trix, you're still awake. How you doing? Nice. Rust Aroma. Wow, dude, 2 months. Remember, Xana's attacked while the ghost of the machine, the Arcane Disciples. Chat, let's spam those eyes of Xana in the chat for Neon Velocity, Booty Snacks. Hey, sounds good, man. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. What's up, guys? Alright, let's continue the guide. So, we talked about the skills, we talked about the stats. Let's go over the gear. The Mercenary is a Might Aura, so an offensive Nightmare Mercenary. This Mercenary is going to help finish off monsters that are immune to lightning and fire, or simply highly fire resistant and don't take a lot of damage from lightning. But in general, he just helps you finish off bosses, period. Like if you're using Nova on the Devilkins, usually he'll finish off the elite. So having that Might War on him is going to greatly improve your efficiency. Especially in P1. The Mercenary does a ton of damage in P1. So it's important you have strong weapons on him as well, but we'll go over that. This is pretty much the standard setup for this Mercenary. You're going to want an Ethereal Elite Infinity, ideally a fast base like a Thresher or a Giant Thresher, and the Mercenary is going to be doing a lot there. Hey, what's up, Trout Not a Fish? How you doing? Nice, nice. How you been doing, Trix? What have you been up to? What have you been doing, Glug? Nice. Alright. So, Infinity, it's going to lower the resistances for fire and lightning. Since you're a hybrid build, neither of your skills are going to do a ton of damage compared to a pure build. See, Fireball Nova is hybrid. You split your skills into 2 different trees, or even 3 different trees in the case of a tribrid build, but we're not doing that. This is Fireball Nova, and Infinity is really important for these builds. Lowering monster res for 2 different elements is going to boost your overall effectiveness greatly. And then, of course, giving him the damage off of the Fortitude. Ethereal Bugged Fortitude is really insane as well. And then in Darl's Visage, of course, to top it all off with more attack speed and just a good roll. So yeah, attack speed, fire res, jewel, also optimal in there as well. Ethereal would be even better, of course, but in general, that's kind of what you're going for. You also don't need quite an insane base in the Fortitude, but you're going for Fort, Andes, and Infinity if you can get it. And that's going to make your character as strong as possible here. Nice. Alright. So, Mercenary is a beast. He has to do damage. Want him to have Might Aura. And as for Argear... Alright, there are a lot of options in the weapon slot. You could go Oculus. Oculus, though, you get bounced around a lot, so I don't usually prefer it, especially not with archers in the pit. Sometimes it can be hard to get in close to the archers because they'll shoot you and then you're constantly like bouncing around. Not a huge fan, especially not in Worldstone Keep either with like Black Souls, so I typically avoid it. You can also go Tal's Weapon, which is something we can show off briefly. You could actually go 4-piece Tals and not 3-piece Tals. And that would give you negative enemy light and fire, which will actually help this build quite a bit. Now you might be wondering why not just full Tals then. Well, you could go full Tals, but then you don't have as much Magic Find as you would have on the Shaco, because you don't get any more Magic Find bonuses past the 3-piece Tals. So it does limit your Magic Find a bit. Of course, you should maybe start talking about some of this a bit. So Shaco, pretty straightforward for a build trying to max out their Magic Find. have good DR, life, mana, which is just really good for a Nova build, getting in close, using a lot of mana, MF, damage reduction, and skills. So pretty straightforward. My favorite weapon, of course, though, after all the weapons are said and done, is a Shootas because it gives you both fire and lightning damage added to skills, and it gives you a solid amount of faster cast rate, and you can still put an Istrin in it, so it'll still give you a pretty decent amount of MF. You could also use Hodo if you want to. Hodo is going to have less potential with MF and slightly less potential for damage, but it's easier to stack res with it. So, oh, he's been going hard. Hell yeah, let's go. Yeah, too much cider. Nice, nice. I hope you're doing well though. Hope you're doing well, Trix. Has been friending him. Sweet, sweet. Um, right. So we have, of course, three-piece towels. So I mentioned this briefly, but so best helm is pretty clearly Shaco, if you can get it. Shootas is, I would say, the best option for this build, but of course, there's other options we talked about. And as for three-piece three-piece towels is amazing on any build that's trying to get insanely high amounts of Magifying, especially for players 1. It's not going to help your damage a ton. I mean, this amulet at least has 2 skills, but it's going to give you your faster cast rate, and it's going to give you a ton of Magifying. There's Magifying on the belt, there's a Magifying bonus from 3 pieces, um, and there's a ton of Magifying on the armor as well. And it does give you a lot of res. Um, Life, mana, and everything else as well. So it's really, really solid for like stacking Magic Find, especially on a Sorceress, especially in Players 1. I did mention you could even go 4-piece, which we'll show in a bit, but yeah, it's okay. All right, Spirit Monarch's pretty much the only thing you're ever going to want to run on your shield. Gives you your faster cast rate you need, life and mana. You need 105 faster cast rate, so it's going to do a lot of damage there and give you plus skills. And then, of course, they have an F. Cold Arms doesn't need to be F, of course. But we just have it. Make sure you have like a Spirit and a Cold Arms if you have them, and boost your life and mana by a ton on swap. War Travelers. You can use like rare options. There's definitely like rare boots you could use in this case, like this one here. I'm probably not actually going to show this one off, but this is a really, really sick pair of rare boots that give you a ton of lightning, fire res, dex, fast run walk, and MF. So yeah, these boots are pretty sick. But they don't have as much magic find as War Traps, and War Traps do give more like life stats, so we don't need the res, so we're just going to use War Traps. War Traps are going to be best in slot for any build trying to reach highest MF. Same goes for Chance Guards, just super good MF gloves. On other versions of the build, you can definitely use Mage Fist. Mage Fist would even give you one more skill to your Fireball, but it's actually just better for us to stack more MF in this case because we don't need the FCR on the Mage Fist, and we're just trying to stack even more MF. Naja Ring, 40 MF Ring, all those things are really good in the ring slots, or in this case, we also need 10 more FCR. We don't need 20, but we need 10 on the ring. A 10 FCR ring with MF, and ideally even like mana res is definitely really good, so this ring actually fits the build perfectly. And then as for the small charms, we have a bunch of MF res charms. Hey, thank you, Trix. You have a great night. Okay. Sounds good. Night, night. You have a good night. Thank you for stopping by. Yeah, it is getting pretty late. 40 MF Gediz. So yeah, we have MF res, MF mana, all the fun stuff. MF defense. And we have that 5 FHR small charm, which is allowing us to hit 60 FHR, which is a breakpoint. So it's also helping our fire res, which is not necessarily perfect. But all these charms in general, you just want MF. MF res, good MF res. MF 5 all res would be ideal to have everywhere, but yeah, those are insanely rare. So 40 MF Geeds, and we have a strong Sorceress Torch and a very strong Annie, but whatever you can do in this department, it's good stuff. Geeds, Torch, Annie. 7 investable charms. No skillers. We don't need skillers because we are in players 1. Our whole goal is to snipe elites for those drop odds from the elites, those unique and set items in players 1 where they have the lowest amount of HP, and it doesn't matter. One thing to note about elite farming in general or elite hunting, just like with the Berserk Bar, we'll mention it again for the Fireball Novasork, is that player count does not affect the items they drop. They always drop a magic or higher item, and it's totally based on RNG. Of course, Magic Find, the Magic Find stat will improve the odds of it rolling unique or set or rare. However, the player count itself will not influence whether or not an elite drops an item. They always do, no matter what, which is why players 1 solo farming is a thing with a very high Magic Find build. It doesn't focus damage. It's also one of the reasons why hybrid sorceresses are a thing in general. Hybrid sorceresses or hybrid builds in general tend to fall off really hard in high player count. This build's no exception. There's definitely a version of this build that can kind of take on high player count, which we'll show you guys, but in general, this build is designed for P1 farming. Alright, so we went over the basic stats, skills, gear, and now it's time to demo her for a bit in her best area. So we're going to be using Nova against the fire immunes, most of the Devilkins. We'll be pre-buffing with her frozen armor, her battle orders, and her battle command. And we can't even use static field if we want in some cases, but for the most part we don't want to touch that. We can use that against bosses if we want, though. We have to get static field anyway to get Nova, so I mean, may as well just have it on hand just in case. For the most part, we're not using that. We can even use Meteor if we really want to. Meteor gets from max Firebolt and Fireball and high Fire Mastery, or Meteor is also pretty strong. But we're also not going to be using that in general in this build. This is a pit specialty hybrid build. This is something I'd like to emphasize. Fireball Nova is a specific combination of skills that works well in the pit, because with a very strong Fireball, it will kill everything else in Players 1, except the Devilkins. The Devilkins have low HP. Nova doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's really effective at hitting all those Devilkins and providing a large source of AoE just to take them all out, and then to isolate the elites for Nova itself and for the Mercenary. So this specific combination of elemental damage is very good in the pit. Pit, of course, being that very awesome max level area with low HP monsters in general that can drop every item in the game. So, very strong stuff. There are other hybrid sorceresses like Blizzard Fireball that work better in Ancient Tunnels. There's also like Orb Meteor or Orb Fireball that works really well in Ancient Tunnels, or can work in the pit, but maybe not as well because the damage output isn't quite as high. But this build does very well in the pit. So if you want to be a pro at Magic Find in the pit, this is not a bad idea. So without further ado, here we go. Take to the streets. Alright, so oh wow, what do you know? Very first kill? Gnat's Claw. One of the rarest items in the game. Right off the bat. Kajam. Can you say rigged? Now notice that most of the time, the monsters I'm killing die in 1 or 2 shots. That is a feature, not a bug. It usually should take 1 to 2 fireballs unless they're highly fire resistant because they have the fire enchant stat or something or other. So my bow came off, bro. Now you might notice, if I see a fire enemy Devilkin, I'll usually open with a Nova. So I can isolate them, at least for myself, at least to start dropping their HP for the most part. I notice in general, having a decently strong Nova does at least like 1400-ish damage. It's pretty nice. In Players 1, you can clear lots of Devilkins. Now, one thing to note about Players 1 is that monsters that are not elites, so the minions, their minions, the elite pack minions, and the regular monsters just everywhere, just all around, don't have high drop odds. They don't drop items most of the time. I mean, if you've ever played the game, you'll know the vast majority of the monsters, when you start out playing the game solo, just don't drop something, period. They don't drop anything. Not even a piece of garbage. That's because they have low drop chance. But since there are tons of densely packed Devilkins, popping them quickly with Nova is actually not a terrible idea. But for the most part, you'll notice, besides some moments of really high density like that, some pockets of high density, this build is all about trying to kill the champions, like those there. Now, make sure we're in Players 1, yep, okay. Wow, unique and set amulet, yeah. So we have so much Magic Find, it's ridiculous. It definitely shows here. Definitely shows. Tons of Magic Find. How many elites are there in the pit? There are 6 to 8 elites in the pit. That's a good question. So yeah, we're definitely finding some really solid pieces of... Oh, well, Unique Amulet didn't roll so good, but that's okay. Hemo Curio. Hey, what's up, Neon Velocity? How you doing? Yeah, I feel like a lot of people wonder about the skill distribution, so we kind of already went over that. Skill distribution's a little complicated on hybrid builds, especially this one. So we definitely made sure to go over that. And in general, you're just going to be firing your fireball. I put my fireball on left click and my Nova on right click. That way I don't have to like constantly switch the skills. I can just shift click that. I can just shift click my fireball and then use Nova. So yeah, we almost have 700 Magic Find, and even though there's huge diminishing returns of Magic Find, 670, you're definitely hitting an impressive amount of unique Magic Find, so she's got some good odds. She did very well in Battle of the Pit. Really played her. Very, very well indeed. And yeah, she is a pit machine. What's up, Let's Just One? How you doing? She is a machine like no other. She might have lost in sudden death, but her performance even in sudden death was amazing. So she has proven her capability of farming the pit many times. I really like this build. It's really chill. And if you ever just want something to solo farm with, you don't even need a higher player count. This build's always going to be an excellent choice. Yeah, so that skeleton there got one shot. If your fireball does a lot of damage, it will one-shot or at least two-shot in almost all scenarios. I did talk about the damage range earlier, though. That one, so that's one of the scenarios I was talking about right there. That monster was fire enchanted, so I think she was fire immune prior to being broken by my infinity. Which means it's going to take a few more shots for sure. Usually one thing you can do is you can use Nova, but you can also just use Fireball to kill her minions, or kill the Fire Enchanted's minions, and then I'll isolate them for the Mercenary. You notice that I like tele-stomping. I like trying to teleport directly on top of the monsters to get both my Fireball and Nova damage mixed in with my Mercenaries. A large amount of physical damage, which is especially consequential in players 1. Yeah, see there. That was a one shot. Now see, that one's fire enchanted. You see how I took that hit there? I could do that. Nova will actually kill the fire enchanteds faster than using fireball in almost all the cases. But you can also just use the fireball with the mercenary getting close. Let's see. Alright, I think we're almost done demoing the main area of this character. We can start talking about some other things you can do with the fireball Nova Sword. But it's really important to show this off because this is what the build does best. Build is first and foremost a pit farmer. There's other hybrid sorceresses that do other areas pretty well. There's other pure sorceresses that do areas very well, obviously. But this is her area. This is what she does. If you want to farm the pit like a pro, this is one of the top builds for farming the pit. Not a high P count build, but it's a low P count build. It's all about that players 1 elite sniping. Gonna snipe that pulse dancer. Bam. And notice how teleporting directly on top allowed my mercenary just to pop that one. Just to pop that elite there. So I want the mercenary right up in there. He's gonna make things even faster for us. Guess my number within... Okay. Six. What's up, Omnipotent? How you doing? You said getting it within 5, right? Wait. Oh, let me see if I got this right. What's up, Omnipotent? What was the number, though? Isn't the number 6 guaranteed to be within 5? Yeah, 5 or 6, you're right, yeah. Maybe it was an IQ test, I don't know. How many elites are... I'm glad I don't feel that dumb. I was feeling a bit dumb with the audio issues earlier, but it's okay. There are things that I just don't know anything about, and I kind of wish I knew more about, to be honest. Alright, sounds good. What? Yeah, so I'm gonna demo her one more time here, and then we're gonna go over some other stuff. But I'd like to emphasize this build is not super complicated. Like when it gets down to it, once you understand the skills, once you understand your gear options, it's pretty good. And then if you use your fireball and Nova properly, and against the correct monsters in here, which takes some practice, you farming pits like a pro. I noticed that most of the monsters don't even drop an item in P1. That's just normally what happens, but if the density is high enough, you can pop some density as well, even in P1, because Nova will kill them. They'll just flatten them so quickly. Alright, thank you so much, Omnipotent, for joining Xana's Attack Squad, the Ghost of the Machine, the Arcane Disciples. Hey man, everything helps, man, believe it or not. Everything helps. Guys, spam those eyes of Xana in the chat for Omnipotent. Let's go. You're my density. You mean my You're my density. Wow. So yeah, you know, I can use Oculus, so, you know, I can switch out for Oculus if I want. I can show that off here in a second. Now notice with Oculus, if I use Oculus, look at my Magic Find. With an ist in it, I have 701 Magic Find. So, I can show you guys the Oculus real quick. This is kind of neat. I'm not going to show the res boots, but if you're lacking res, those boots are pretty good. Let's see if I can avoid getting, like, bounced around like a ping pong ball. Looks like we've gotten good RNG so far. That's good. What's up, Crypto? How you doing? Yeah, sorry guys, I haven't been streaming much the last 2 days. I had my birthday dinner today, and I was literally driving around the city for like an hour and a half, starving and not being able to eat food because everywhere we wanted to go decided to close down for the day or for the week. So, believe it or not, just got really bad RNG in real life today, so I wasn't even here when I said I'd be. We'll be streaming Battle of the Pit again tomorrow, though, so hope you guys accept my apology. It's been rough. Yesterday, I had to take the day off to do like a lot of extra work and get work done, which we did. We got a lot of work done, so it's good. Hey, you can call me that if you want. I don't really give a crap, honestly. If it makes him feel any better for subscribing, I don't know. Maybe he feels like it's a bigger deal than it is. I don't know. Everything helps me, of course, but for him, if he feels like, oh shit, makes sense. Apologize, not accepted. Okay, sorry. You don't take reservations? No, we just kind of winged it, honestly. We didn't realize they... Dude, one place, they were like taking a vacation. We didn't even know. That was like our first choice. And then another place, I guess, decided to be like randomly closed down. Could have been something COVID related, but who knows? I don't know. It was... Real life was a disaster today, and at least we were productive yesterday. That was good, but... Yeah, this could have been something like that. Who knows? All I know is that we ended up going to a third place after driving around the city forever, so... I literally wasted like almost 2 hours just like doing that and then waiting just to get into the place. And then waiting for the food was like another hour, so... instead of food taking like an hour and a half or 2 hours today, it ended up being closer to like 4 to 5 hours, so... I did not plan that at all, but, you know, sometimes shit happens, you know. It's what it is. Okay. Normally that doesn't happen, I'll say that. Some really bad RNG today. It's very interesting RNG. Very good stuff. You earned it. I'm still... Oh, man, that Burr low. You're still... Wow, you're still thinking about that Burr low drop. Well, whatever makes... Whatever makes it more interesting, I suppose. I gotta say, though, that drop was insane, so, you know, that would make me, that'd make me want to do whatever. I'd feel on top of the world after that, you know? Alright, so this is 4-piece towels. So 4-piece towels is kind of interesting. One thing to note about 4-piece towels is... If I wanted to, I could even run 2 40 MF rings or 2 Ninja rings here. And then I have a MF that's like a little bit lower than the standard build. But now if there are like any immunities that I'm breaking in there, or if there's just any highly resistant monsters, they're not going to be that resistant anymore, because once the Infinity breaks them, that negative enemy res will take effect, and we'll be able to kill them even easier. Another nice feature of this build is it has 85 faster hit recovery. So, 85 faster hit recovery. I guess our MF is still 640. We can actually hit 86 faster hit recovery with 4-piece towels. So we can actually be a little bit more resilient, and we don't bounce around like a ping pong ball sometimes with the Oculus. The Oculus bounces around a few times, but it does get some pretty bad sometimes. That's pretty solid overall though. I like this setup though, and you can use Mage Fist on top of that as well to maintain your damage. So my damage isn't quite as high as with the standard version, but notice all that negative res. Now I can break their immunities further, which means we're doing more effective damage with this build. So this is kind of a neat approach. It also works pretty well. So I can show this one as well. What do you mean by best clearing? Like density clearing? In general, my density clearers don't get above 500 MF, but that's because they're more focused on damage in player 7. So now you'll notice it almost seems like we're one-shotting more monsters now, and that's because we have so much negative enemy res. Even though the effective damage went down, or effective damage went up because of the negative enemy res. One thing to note, though, is that we did lose some magic finds, so we had to sacrifice about 30 magic find from that standard Ashuda's build that we did first. That's definitely going to affect some things. Yeah, we can show this build one more time, one more pass through with this one. Imagine not doing AT. Well, you know, some people like AT a lot, you know. You're too tired today? Oh no. You tried? Well, at least you tried. Recharge your batteries and try again. You're hiding from the people again. Yeah, I mean, I have like a 500 magic find build that does P7. I have like my hammered in like 500%-ish does P7. My highest MF build period hits almost 800. That's my Pit Zerker. This build is like one of my highest MF builds. She can hit any near 700 in pretty much all cases. But yeah, you might have noticed that it almost feels like I one-shot more things in this build, so this is definitely something you can do, especially if you can time your attacks really well. Alright, sounds good, man.
Yes.
Thank you for checking us out tonight. It was a super late start, so I don't even know how many people have been able to see my stream lately, but you know, that's okay. We'll be back fully tomorrow. Zonfitten, what is this? Okay, what am I reading? I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna feign ignorance though. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Alright, so we're gonna go back to the standard build for a bit. We showed off some more weapons you can use and some other like swap outs you can use to make sure you still maintain 105 FCR. But there are other areas you can do, not just the pit. I would not recommend Ancient Tunnels because the high HP fire immune infidels don't go down super fast from the Novas. But since the spawns vary quite a bit in Worldstone, which is another 85 max level area like the pit that can drop anything, Worldstone's not a bad idea. Now the monster types can be a bit annoying, but you don't necessarily have to just farm the pit, even with the standard version of the build here. There are other areas. she can be pretty strong in. Now, I haven't seen any fire immunes yet, but if you see fire immunes, you can use the Nova against them, of course. Also, areas like this are more dangerous, even in P1, so if you do an area like this, it's even more important that your res is stacked sometimes, just to make at least you have decent res. You don't really need a stacked res, but yeah. Unless it's hardcore, and that can definitely save your life. Stacking past that 75 maximum. But yeah, you can see though, you know, even with the eschewed standard build, 670 MF build, just fine. Alright, so this is definitely one of the challenges sometimes of farming an area like this. The good news though is that in P1 the monsters don't have a ton of HP, so jeez. There isn't a lot of potions. Trying to get in there, man. Yeah, we can kill those fire mains though. You want a mausoleum clear? Sure. I can do that. This build does pretty decently in the mausoleum, all things considered, because it's a fireball build. But if I'm being perfectly honest, you don't really care about farming Bale in P1 usually. You would just farm Worldstone Keep. Since it's a P1 build, it's not the best keep farm in the world. It's not like you can't do it though. Of course, you can always also pop easy monsters like this. And you can also farm like lower cross, even with higher player count, that's fine. I would definitely stay away from like Travancore. It's all fire and light amino there. It's not gonna be a lot of fun. This is not a boss farming build either, so pure builds do a lot better against bosses, but so I wouldn't recommend it. Alright, so yeah. Fireball builds in general though are strong in here, but the problem is that this area is like almost exclusively lightning immune. So at this point you're not really a Fireball Nova build. You're a Fireball Sorceress. So it'd be better just to do a pure Fireball Sorceress in here. If I'm being completely frank. This is okay though. Just gotta teleport to the mausoleum. Follow the path. Enter the entrance that is next to the edge of the map. Easy mode. Oh, you mean the unique ring?
Stay a while.
Oh, that was a Door Star. Door Star! Oh. Interesting. You know, I watched The Dark Knight, but The Dark Knight Rises, I don't remember as much of that movie. I mean, I watched it, but it wasn't as compelling as The Dark Knight, so I don't know. Felt like they were kind of... felt like they lost a little bit of their impetus there. Okay. Yeah, even the standard version of the build is capable of doing all kinds of areas. All kinds of stuff in general. You can even use a meteor in here if you want. But yeah, P1 Nola Flock is garbage even for keys, so you're going to want to turn up the player count. And that's the main challenge of this build. This build It's all about magic find, so it's all about elite sniping and killing stuff in the pit in general. If you stay in the pit, you're always going to have a good time. In World Stone, it will do just fine because the monsters are the same in terms of their drop odds. But it might be a little bit more of a struggle. But if you want more variety, I'd stick to like World Stone, and pit's going to be solid as well. Because you can stack a sizable amount of magic find, you could also do a Devil Flock if you really wanted to. But once again, pure builds tend to be a bit better in those situations. A pure Fireball Sork, though, in the pit wouldn't do very well because of the Devilkins, which there are a lot of in here. You miss out on a lot of easy elite kills. Because you don't have any kind of other damage, it's hard to isolate those elites, even for the mercenary to kill them. Let's see. For a Blizzard Sork, the whole area is almost immune to cold. All these Dark Stalkers are immune to cold. Even for a pure Lightning Sork, killing those archers can be a bit of a pain sometimes, even with Griffins and Infinity. So having both elements, really, really strong here. Hell yeah, man. Better bet we're gonna be getting up in there. Resurrected's coming out. We've been prepping for it. This is D2R prep guide number 7, by the way, so this is also a prep guide. Just like the rest. Yeah. Alright, so now, I think I've kind of demoed enough areas with her, and I've also demoed some different weapon swap outs. Let's try to show off a build that is a bit more complicated. So, remember I said earlier, we can, if we want, we can make her strong in high player count. So the way D2R works, it's gonna be global servers, man. Global servers. Nice. Global servers. Nope, we're not doing Bear right now. This is just Fireball Nova stuff. That's it. That's all she can do. So we can turn her, Miss Hot Tub here, into a character that's capable of addressing a high player count. So we can do quite well here. Quite well indeed. Put on some extra fire skillers. Oh, it's always a hot tub stream. Come on, man. Let's be real. Oh yeah, the Mars. So I can put on Nashudas. I can put on Griffins with a light or a fire facet. I can put on a Phoenix. All this negative enemy fire and light res is going to boost both sources of damage, the Fireball and the Nova. We're still going to use a Shudas because the Shudas is just amazing for the hybrid damage. You could even put a facet in here if you want more damage instead of Magic Find. But you might notice our Magic Find is drastically lower, and it can get even lower if we continue to swap out these MF small terms here. So that's what I'm going to do here, though. Drastically. So I can stick on some skillers. Now all of a sudden, we're doing very sizable amount of damage with both Fireball and Nova. So I can wear Chains of Honor. I could even wear Enigma, of course. I'm not going to restat, but if I used Enigma, I could have even more health. Um, Chains of Honor is good for maintaining res on this version of the build, though, because you don't have as much res without 3-piece towels. Of course, you also don't have any more than 8% DR, no matter what you choose to do. But this is actually a really fun version of the build. I would say it's just fun, though, because I wouldn't say it's super optimal for anything. Normally, like a pure Fireball Sork is just going to outperform in certain areas, no matter what. But we can definitely show this one off a bit. Mrs. Hot Tub. Mamacita. Be better off with an Oculus? Nah, I don't want to jump around right now. Alright, so we still have 105.
I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this fuss.
Still have 105 castaway, but look at our poor magic find. It's all the way down at 261. And if we continue to add more skillers, or we decided to change out some more magic find, we'd have even less magic find. So it's still a decent amount, though, given diminishing returns. It's pretty okay. This build's more fun than it is anything. It's not necessarily like insanely efficient compared to other builds in any other areas. But if you want to play a Fireball Novasork like this, you can. You stick on that Phoenix for that ultra high enemy negative fire res. Same thing with the Griffins, ultra high enemy light res. Can even get more off the Ashutas with the dual damage sources. Get +2 on your armor. You can even use an Ormus if you want, like a Fireball Ormus. Mara's just get plus skills everywhere. Stones of Jordan. And now she does a ton of damage. One thing to note, though, is that we have... Yeah, we only have 5% faster hit recovery right now. So, ideally, you would want at least 20, but it's kind of up to you. Yeah, I guess we can pop those in there. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so 20 FHR is at least decent. You lose all your FHR too when you switch out your spirit, so yeah, it gets kind of rough. All right. Anyway, so I do have a Ming songs. I do actually. You mean on this build? Are you a crazy man? Yeah, you're a crazy man. Elwar Wickmas Peludo. So much for the follow. Welcome to the cult of Xanadris Day. Yep, I'm nuts. Okay. That's what I already knew. But thank you for confirming it. Okay. Fears is so bad it scales terribly. It does scale not great. You're right about it not scaling very good. Also, Omnipotent, you're kind of spamming the chat right now. Can we calm down a little bit? I'm having a hard time reading what anyone else is writing right now or typing. Maybe a little bit, yeah. It's getting a little overwhelming. Okay, here we go. Just a lot. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna wanna field questions in the chat too. So, is that mana burn? Yeah, it's mana burn. Okay. Cool. So we're doing 15,000 fireball now. So this is way higher than that P1 version of the build. And now we can kill stuff in player 7. So now we're in high player count. We can use this build as a high P count farmer. As I mentioned before, though, it's not necessarily super efficient. Hybrid builds in general and high player count are not incredible. But Phoenix allows us to have awesome sustain with its mana and life regen. We get Fire Sorb on it. We get all this negative enemy res from both of them. And now all of a sudden, you can do pretty well at high player count. These are fire immune. And see, our Nova also does a pretty decent amount of damage. Now, one thing to note here is since we're in a high player count, one thing that could be smart to do in high player count is use static field. Static field, you're almost never going to want to use that in players 1 because they're 1 or 2 shotting everything. But especially against like really high HP fire immunes, don't be afraid to use static before using Nova. Very smart idea. And notice there I used a couple of static fields and then the Novas took care of the rest. Pretty fun build. Now the random monsters will drop loot in player 7, and it's not a bad idea. Our fireball is strong enough to be extremely good in P7 just as a pure fireball build. And then we have a Nova on top of that. The only problem though is that if you're gonna go hybrid like this, I'd almost even recommend putting more points in a Lightning Mastery to make your Nova stronger, and maybe even to you might not even need as strong of a Fireball. So, Fireball getting to like 13 to 14k is fun. If you want to have some effectiveness against fire immunes at this high a player count, you can use static field like I'm doing. You can also raise the damage slightly on the Nova itself in your skill tree, but it's not necessary. But yeah, you can totally play the build like this though. Against higher HP fire immunes, it's a little tougher because Nova didn't get that much stronger by putting on a lot of this gear, so whereas Fireball did. So using static field against them can definitely work. Or you can ignore them, but at that point you're kind of just a pure Fireball sword. No, this is the Softcore Holy Grail project, sir. Don't worry, hardcore content will return shortly. Actually, it's about to return in a second. We're about to demo the hardcore version of this character. So as you can see, she's very competent even in player 7, even in World Stone. My FHR is a bit problematic though. I'd almost recommend you put some FHR GCs on. Getting even higher FHR than 20 would actually be really nice. So FHR fire GCs might be a good idea. Or even FHR light GCs if you want to boost Nova that way. You could even field like a combination of like fire and light GCs in here. There's always a lot of options for charms, but no, it's up easy. You checking my random jaw runes, making sure they there's a couple of broken links in some of my clips now, which is kind of sad, but for the most part, they should work. Well, there's killing P7 minions of destruction with a combination of static field and Nova. Not easy to do, because once again, especially on this low lightning mastery, no lightning GC variant of this particular build. It's gonna be a little rough. Like I said though, you can definitely make your Nova get up to like 2k damage, which should be a little bit better. And then Fireball, as long as it's like sitting between like 12 to 14k, it's gonna be solid even high player count. All this negative res, and of course the sustain with redemption is very helpful in high player count. So it's definitely a fun take on it for sure though. I still want to maintain some Magic Find, but I don't know. There's always stats you can sacrifice if you want to optimize other parts of the build, though. We don't need to kill Bale in P7. That's just... Kill him with Fireball. Oh, another Jalal's. What the heck? Alright. Got a Jalal, Madness, and Nat's Claw. Hey, now finding some pretty good stuff. Dude, Arcane has dropped me most of my jaw runes, I think still. I mean, I don't know, it's kind of close. I've been farming a lot outside of Arcane lately, but yeah. When I used to farm Arcane a ton, yeah, we just found a ton of jaw runes doing that. Who ended up winning? That battle's tomorrow, Rose. So, Lightning Spark versus Poison Necro is tomorrow. I mentioned dropping meteors on Nilithok, Mirage. I did. One good thing about the high player count version of this build is that this might be the build that's better to farm Nilithok with, because the Phoenix will actually redeem the souls, so he won't have as many corpses for Corpse Explosion. So, like, if there is a build you want to farm Nilly with, it's probably this one, if you have the items for it. The Phoenix Griffins build. As if not, yeah, it's going to be kind of rough. Why do I put scrolls on my belt? So that I can save room in my inventory, so I can actually put more magic find charms in here to increase my odds of finding items. It's a way to min-max your the number of charms you can put in your inventory. So I don't need to put a tome in there if I have these, if I get full. So I don't have to worry about going to town and getting full. I can just use a scroll, and I can refill them when they get low. And if you put a scroll down there, you can even refill them. It's pretty good. It's a very common question, honestly. I feel like a lot of people didn't even know you could do that. To be honest, I didn't do it for the longest time myself, and then I realized, oh, it can actually help me out sometimes. Yeah. Pretty good stuff. Alright, so guys, that's pretty much it for the standard version and some weapon variants like the 4-piece towels, and then of course the damage version here. The damage version, as you can see, she's very competent in high player count. She can kill even Worldstone, which is the key there, and even Bale and Bale Waves. So you never have to worry about anything that's either lightning or fire immune, because you can kill them both very easily. Static Field and Nova, or just Nova and Fireball will do the trick every time, even high player count, with these souped up items. Alright. Notice in all cases, though, you use the same mercenary setup. That never changes. It's always going to be... And this is the case for almost every elemental character. Infinity, Fortitude, and Andes is the perfect trifecta for the mercenary in almost every elemental character, not just this one. Alright, so let's talk about the hardcore version for a bit here. So she's already geared up, in this case. Alright, so this character is built for hardcore. There are a few differences from the standard version of the build, but nothing too crazy. She only has 8,000 fireball damage, though. She still only uses enough strength to wear her gear, like her storm shield. That strength bugged on so that she's wearing it using the strength on the storm shield itself. You put on some strength jewelry and then bug that one on, so we're hitting 156 strength with it. She has maximum block with a shield storm shield. Shale on the storm shield means we're hitting a block rate frames. So we're actually improved her block rate. She gets another block rate breakpoint, I think, at 48. And so that means when she blocks something, she doesn't get stuck as often. This build is designed for the same purpose as the standard one, by the way, so it's meant for farming the pit. That being said, you can still farm World Stone with it or whatever else you want to. Except on hardcore, I highly do not recommend farming World Stone 1 with the charge zombies ever. Because they can go through your block, and if you do a bad teleport, they can all hit you at once and kill you. And even if you have a lot of DR, even if it's just players 1, you can end up very sad losing your character. So this is a real live hardcore Fireball Novasaur. This is on my hardcore Pluggy Grail. So we have the Shield one, like I said. The block frames are really good, so you don't get stuck blocking very often. This is one of the main differences. So a lot of this other stuff you might notice is identical. Nothing changes. I'm still getting a lot of res, so I'm getting a lot of DR and other important hardcore stats like life, things that are going to keep us alive, with a ton of magic find on top of that. And we have Mage Fist because we need to make up the loss of the FCR from having a Storm Shield here. So we need to have like more FCR. You'll notice that there's a lot more FCR rings, including this FCR MF ring. And believe it or not, we're still short MF. We only barely get to 110 FCR, and that is with Wizard Spike in the mix. So we can't use any of those more optimal damage options. You really just have to go for Wizard Spike. Now, the good news about Hardcore and Wizard Spike is that Wizard Spike is one of the best weapons on Hardcore, period, because it gives you such an insane amount of all res in addition to that faster cast rate. So that is going to stack our res to the moon, which means even if there's Conviction Aura, our res isn't going to dip below our maximums, our 75s here. Even with Conviction Aura, in most cases, I think the fire res will dip, but not to the point to where our fire res is super low. So that's actually kind of nice. We got our maximum blocks, so we put enough dex points to get that, of course, and then we put the rest of the points into Vitality. One thing to note is that we have 45% damage reduction. You could even put a Burr Rune in the Storm Shield or a Burr Rune in any of these other slots if you want to. You don't have to. And then you can do that as well. This build actually is not meant for taking down Ubers or Diablo clones, so we'll not be taking down that Diablo clone with this build. Sorry to make chat sad there, but we do kill them most of the time, but this build is not meant for it whatsoever. That's going to take forever. Also, since this is a guide, I don't want to be demoing that because that's not what this build is supposed to do. This build has zero competence in that area. Well, it's not true. I mean, you can do it. You can kill him. It's not like you can't. It's just going to take a while. 1% life leech. I sense a blood rune. It's got good fire res, yeah. But then again, it's fun. So we are hitting that 105 FCR. We're hitting 45% DR, which is going to keep us alive in combination with the max block. However, another thing that's going to keep us alive is the Frozen Armor in combination with the Mercenary's Aura. So my Mercenary's Aura is not on yet, but Defiance Aura, he's going to give me almost 10,000 defense, or at least almost like 8,000 defense if I can remember right. And he's actually not using my Aura, so he doesn't kill or finish off monsters quite as quickly as in softcore, but it's not too bad. Like, even without Might Aura, he's helping out a ton, and he's providing us with so much defense we don't get hit often. That's good because it prevents blocks, it prevents getting stuck, it prevents dying. I like Defiance Aura a lot on hardcore. You can also use Holy Freeze, but since you're moving so fast on this build anyway, Holy Freeze is not going to necessarily be as effective as Defiance in my opinion, so I actually like using Defiance on her. You don't have to though, you can still use Might. There's no reason why, it's just you're going to be a little bit more vulnerable to being pin cushioned by the archers in the pit. Remember, it's built for the pit once again. One thing to note about this build is that it has a decent amount of FHR, but not a ton because we're mostly relying on our block frames. You don't actually get hit too often, so The hit recovery frames aren't as important. We're still hitting a lot of res though. We're still using a ton of MF, and on hardcore we even use some life, and just to ensure we have our FHR at least decent. Life charms are really good though, especially life res, life mana are going to keep us alive. Everything else is pretty much the same, just different versions of the same items. Besides the extra FCR to make up for the lack of spirit, Wizard Spike, Mage Fist, another FCR ring. And you might also notice our magic find is significantly lower on this build. This is because staying alive requires a lot of tankage. Now, I don't die on my Fireball Novasork hardly at all, like even on softcore, but there are some really nasty archer packs, and I've gotten close to dying way too many times for comfort. So I do recommend going the Storm Shield Max block route. You don't have to in P1. You can be kind of dangerous like the Berserk Barb is to a degree, but you just got to keep in mind that you can get stuck, and with certain aura combinations and with Cursed and extra strong and whatnot, you can die. And the Sorceress is pretty fragile. You do have to get pretty up close optimally with Fireball, Tele-Stomping with the Mercenary, and with Nova, of course, so definitely not an insanely safe playstyle, so I do recommend definitely trying out the Storm Shield on the hardcore. Okay, so what we're gonna do, without further ado, I think you guys kind of have the idea of how to shore up and make this character tankier, and how she differs from the softcore version of the character. We still have over 500 magic findings, so it's not like she's slacking, you know? It's not like she's struggling for magic finding. Definitely not. Alright. Her damage is a bit lower though, her MF is a bit lower. Everything's a bit lower, but then our survivability is way higher. So, you'll notice I don't take damage hardly at all. We have 8,700 defense. That's the golden ticket. Stay alive as long as we want like this. Now our Nova definitely does less damage, so it's going to take like an extra Nova in most cases to kill stuff. Sorceress, my man. My bae. I don't know, I should just use up to Mage Fists. That is a good point. I don't know. Okay, to make Mirage happy. See, I can use double up most of the time for extra defense, but on swap, if I want to have more FCR for going, I guess I can use the normal version. It's kind of whatever, though.
Hello.
Putting extra points in just to wear that Mage Fist, though, on swap isn't worth it, because then we lose a lot of health, so. That was a good question from the chat from our resident moderator, Mirage. 1% life leech, that is definitely a blood ring, yep. That is definitely a blood ring. Indeed. Life, MF, and 0. So yeah, she does very well up in here. No problems whatsoever.
Stay a while and listen.
Sounds good, man. Thank you for hanging out. And thank you for the support, man. GG. But yeah. She is a beast, even on hardcore. Definitely not a softcore only build. Just gotta use the right gear. Wizard Spike Storm Shield is a well-known super amazing combo for Sorceresses and a lot of other characters in general in hardcore. Even assassins, so using Wizard Spike and Storm Shield is really nice. Definitely need that 110 of Sierra though, and we're definitely hitting very high damage reduction, which is what we want. And with the max block, it's just hard to kill us. And sometimes, even with all these defensive stats, we still take a ton of damage from archers in there, so it's a good thing we have them, right? And that's why we don't have to worry as much about amplified damage. This is an LOD prep guide. So on the remastered, for all my D2R prep guides, by the way, all the guides on my YouTube that are for D2R prep, all these builds are fully playable and work the exact same way in the new remastered. So if any of these builds that I've been playing inspire you, feel free to check them out. It was fun to run a Sin through the game as well. Yeah. It will be a YouTube video, yeah. This is part of my D2R prep series. So I made a number of build guides for D2R prep, but I also made like Rags to Riches. I don't know if we'll have time, but we might even make some other guides as well. Or we might even start making guides after D2R comes out. With the new D2R graphics and resources, it can definitely look a lot better, right? Potentially.
Yes?
Potentially. So yeah. No. This is the game that's gonna be D2R. It's the same game. The vanilla. Project Diablo 2 is not returning on my stream until at least the 13th for beta testing. Could be a little bit after that, but I think it'll be. And we're going to want to test all kinds of things for PD2. We're mostly concerned with late game. That's my specialty. Or at least with the farm starting. Anywhere from like early mapping to late mapping. That's kind of what we're concerned with. For balance purposes. There are other, of course, stages of the game that they're doing a lot of changes in. We might dabble with those a little bit, but in order to make my tier list video like I made last time, it's solid stuff. It's going pretty good.
Good to see you.
My family and I went out for my birthday dinner today, and instead of it taking like an hour and a half, 2 hours like I planned it, ended up taking like 4 hours, so. And then yesterday it was a planned day off, so. It was very good. The sushi was amazing. But to be fair, it wasn't even the plan. The plan was to go to a Chinese food restaurant, and they were closed. And then we tried to go somewhere else I wanted to go, and that was closed too. On a Wednesday. Not even days they're supposed to be closed. So I got trolled a lot in real life today, so I started the stream a lot later than I wanted to. I'm surprised there's even people here, to be honest, because of how late this is. I guess this is the good time for some people, but probably not most. Yeah, it's been a little challenging. it took the whole week off for 4th of July. The whole week? Why? I got some sushi, I like it. Yeah, sometimes. There's a lot of people that can't watch these streams as well, so I don't know. Also, it's not like we're streaming for an insanely long... I wanted to stream for longer today, but because we started so late, it's probably not going to happen. What's going to happen is tomorrow we're going to do Battle of the Pit, so we're going to start a lot earlier, and we're just going to have a super long stream tomorrow. And it's going to be the finals, so if you guys want to see that, it's going to be popping off Light Sword versus Poison Necro. What a showdown. It's all going down tomorrow on a Thursday. On Friday, we're going to be doing Battle of the Pit again, most likely. That is going to be the first game of Hammerden versus whoever is his challenger. You guys thought the Hammerden was gone? No, the Hammerden's been waiting this whole time. He wants to prove his mettle. Alright, anyway. Well, as you can see, really tanky. I can show how tanky she is. Definitely taking a lot of damage, as you can see there. But that's with Amplify, right? So it's gotta be a bit more careful with Amp. But you can still see we're very tanky, so unless I stand perfectly still for a while, she's gonna be... She's gonna be fun. Well... I thought you were going to sleep. What happened, man? Well, Poison Necro has to defeat him fair and square. There's no free passes in Battle of the Pit, unfortunately. Alright, so yeah. You guys get the idea, though. Type exclamation LOD guides if you want to see the... if you want to see the guide trees, you can type that as well. If you want to see all the LOD guides, we're actually making a new one today. So this one is the Fireball Novasork. I think we did enough demoing of her, though. Just kind of wanted to show right there that she's highly capable of farming the pit very safely. But she is still just a pit farmer. You could even add 1 point energy shield if you want her to be even tankier. She's almost invincible at that point. But then you lose mana sometimes and you get stuck and you have to use more mana potions, so it's not necessary. If your DR is pretty high, like you saw there, if you have max block and you have good defense, you're not going to take that much damage. But yeah, this is a really awesome build. I really love playing the Fireball Novasork. She's definitely proven her mettle, especially in the pit before, and has found all kinds of insane goodies, like high runes and high-level trigger class 87 uniques, including Templar's Might, even though that was materials. We've gotten close many times, so she's a lot of fun. It is an LOD guide. It is. It is for LOD in preparation for D2R. It's good stuff. But yeah, chat, does anyone else have any questions about the Fireball Novasork today? We went over her skills, stats, gear, and we demoed her. We also demoed various setups. I don't have the setups listed on the stream for this guide because she's mostly just built as a pit farmer. The only two major setups are really hardcore and softcore, and then there's like 4-piece towels, and there's like the damage high player count build if you want to play the hybrid build at high player count, but it's not super pertinent to the build. It's the main key to the build is being a pro at magic finding players 1 or solo pit in hell mode, and decimating elites and quickly farming them and leaving the game. and getting those godly items to drop. As you saw, a lot of unique items are dropping. We found multiple Jalals with her today, and even found Nat's Claw, so you find ultra rare items very quickly with this character. I was just wondering if anyone in the chat had any questions about this, though. Pretty short guide, I'd say, compared to most of them. It's about half the length of a standard one. A lot of the guides I think we're going to be doing for some of these other characters, there aren't as many, I guess you could say, essential variants. There's like one major build, and then there's other builds you can do if you want to do, if that makes any sense. Or there might be some like hardcore adjustments that are important, but they're not going to be like as involved. Because they tend to specialize in one thing, or they tend to have a very rigid build in the case of another one I want to do. So like they are what they are, though, for sure. But yeah, guys, you guys have any questions? I don't see any questions. I do not. I see no questions. All right, guys. GG. You can catch this guide in my LOD guide section on my YouTube. Of course, we also have a Project Diablo 2 guide section as well, which we have a lot of guides for from Season 2. And of course, these guides are made for preparing for D2R. So if you guys want to check these out and learn more about some of these awesome builds for D2R, builds that you might not even be familiar with because you only played Hammerden or Blizzard Sorc the whole time. But even if you didn't, awesome stuff, and you guys can check them out. GG. This is an awesome, what I'd consider to be like an A tier build, a very solid A tier build. Technically, like the Pit Zerker, like the Berserk Barb, can outperform her efficiency in the pit, but given how solid she is, and given that her kill speed is quicker, in some ways she's actually more consistent. And she can almost stack as much magic find. And in some ways, it's just more fun to just jump on top of monsters and pop them instantly, move on to the next one with no setup required. So, really fun build, really powerful, really solid at players 1 magic finding, especially in her area, the pit. Like the pit really truly is her area. So yeah, play her there, and you will have a lot of fun. GGG stuff. Make sure to like and subscribe this video if you enjoyed this guide, or if you're enjoying all the other guides that we have all up in there. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You can always catch me at www.twitch.tv/darkhumility for a variety of Diablo 2 content 6 to 7 days a week. We do it all, Project Diablo 2, LOD, and D2R, of course, when it comes out. Softcore, mostly hardcore though, at least these days, and single player, solo self-found online, solo self-found single player, group find, trade, just depends on what's going on at the moment. And yeah, make sure to give you guys all kinds of interesting insights on and inspire people to play this game in ways that maybe they've never played it before. Let's get it, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Dark Humility, over and out. Let's go.